something is happening in robotics right now that most people are missing. Google DeepMind released Gemini Robotics 1.5, a vision language action model. They call it their first thinking robotics AI. Then they followed it up with ER 1.6, which adds embodied reasoning and lets robot read gauges and handle real-world tasks. NVIDIA launched Cosmos 3, an open foundation model for physical AI, plus Alibaba 2 for robotaxi reasoning. And Alibaba launched the Qwen Robot Suite, 3 foundation models: Qwen Robot Nav for vision language navigation, Qwen Robot Manip for cross-embodiment manipulation, and Qwen Robot World, a video model that predicts physically grounded futures across 20 plus robot types. They also released Ryan Brain through Damo Academy and their AMAP unit, open source ABOT M0, a manipulation model that topped global benchmarks including Libero and Robocasa. 3 companies, same architecture, same window. A world model that understands a physical environment paired with an action model that can execute in it. This isn't coincidence. It's not just another round of press releases. Something fundamental has shifted. And I want to talk about what it is because I think it points to something big. I've been building robots for a long time. Long enough to see hype cycles come and go. Long enough to know that direction matters more than timelines and that timelines always slip. But you see, the direction right now is unmistakable. Here's what I think most people are missing about these announcements. Everyone's focused on the models themselves, how big they are, what benchmark they hit, which company is ahead. That's the noise. The signal is underneath. You cannot train a robot action model without massive amounts of physical world training data. This is fundamentally different from language models. For LLMs, the data already existed. It was the entire internet. For vision models, same thing, billions of images online. But there is no natural corpus of robot picks up object X in environment Y and does Z. Someone has to create that data. And that's been the bottleneck, the data problem. Not the algorithms, not the compute, the data. So when Google, NVIDIA and Alibaba all release large-scale action models, not demos, not toy prototypes, but foundation models within months of each other, that tells you something. It tells you they have figured out how to get the data at scale. Through simulation, teleoperation, synthetic generation, fleet learning, maybe all of the above, we don't know exactly how each company solved it. But the models themselves are evident that the data problem is being solved. Alibaba's Qwen Robot Manip alone was trained on over 38,000 hours of open source robot data and achieved a 3-fold improvement in cross-embodiment transfer, meaning one model can run on widely different robot hardware with minimal retraining. That's not a demo, that's a foundation. You cannot get to this scale without it. Now, why does this matter? Because I believe we are approaching the ChatGPT moment for robotics. Not in 30 years, not in 10, in the next 5 years, maybe even sooner. Let me explain what I mean. ChatGPT was a moment when AI crossed a threshold from interesting technology to I use this every day. It was useful and accessible at the same time. That combination is what drove mass adoption in a span of months, not decades. For robotics, the ChatGPT moment requires 2 things to converge. First, hardware robust enough for everyday chores, picking things up, climbing stairs, washing dishes, handling objects it's never seen before without choking on simple tasks. The good news is the hardware is pretty much there. We already have manipulators that are dexterous, tactile, and reliable. They're getting cheaper and more accessible. The hardware isn't the bottleneck anymore. Second, intelligence. And this is where it gets interesting because there are 2 layers. The high-level layer, conversation, memory, reasoning, being able to talk to a robot the way you talk to a person, no 2-second pass while it parses your word, no repeating it yourself every time you walk into the room, persistent memory, natural, fluid interaction. This layer is making massive progress. Speech in particular, we have moved from voice to text, process in an LLM, text to voice, to direct voice to voice, with response times shrinking towards what feels human. The low-level layer is the harder problem. Universal manipulation. The intelligence to operate any embodiment in any situation with any object. This is still lacking. Nobody really knows what the minimum viable version of this looks like. It's not as simple as the robot can pick up any object. It's deeper than that. But the model we are seeing from Google, NVIDIA, and Alibaba are first real cracks in this problem. And here's the thing. Even a crude solution to universal manipulation changes everything. Once that layer exists, even imperfectly, robotics picks off drastically. I'll be honest about something. I don't know exactly what the ChatGPT moment looks like for robotics. Nobody does. My guess, it starts in the consumer domain, similar to ChatGPT, a general robot for everyday tasks. But that's a guess. What I'm confident about is the direction. The data problem is being solved. The models are getting there. The hardware is ready. The intelligence, both high level and low level, is making real progress on all fronts. And I think the reason most people aren't excited is precisely because we have seen robots in science fiction for decades. A robot sitting next to you having a conversation, it doesn't feel revolutionary when you have watched it in movies your whole life. The familiarity numbs us to how big this actually is. But this isn't science fiction anymore. This is 3 of the biggest tech companies in the world shipping the foundational pieces of that future right now in the same quarter. I'm a roboticist. I've spent years building robots that run locally without the cloud because I believe that that's what robots need to work in the real world. And it excites me genuinely to see the field finally reaching an inflection point where I believe I will see robots operating around us like humans do in my lifetime. Timelines slip, they always do, but the direction is right. The question isn't whether this is happening, it's whether you're paying attention. If this resonates, I would love to hear your take. Do you think we are approaching the ChatGPT moment for robotics, or am I too optimistic? Drop a comment and I read everyone. I'll see you in the next one.